empower people. What does
because
that
they
mean to
need it.
you?
Lifting someone up, like being that again, I believe in like an ecosystem. Like you
Yeah.
have to exist amongst other good energy. And a part of that is empowerment. Like you are great. Like I mean, you're made in his image, so you
You
are
are great.
great.
You were born great. You can't forget
You're
it.
here for a reason. Just
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Heart Helper Podcast, a spiritual space where we share extraordinary stories from everyday, ordinary people because we truly believe that inspiration is far greater than influence.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Heart Helper Podcast. I am your host, Jody Smith, and we are on episode 23, season 2. And today I am very excited. You guys know I love to have the male perspective. And today we have Trey Martin. Welcome to the Heart Helper Podcast.
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I love to get the male perspective, and I always think it's important for us to be able to just pick your brain,
For sure.
see what you've gone through, and more so also see how we could help and how we could be better to one another. So
Yeah.
before we get into your amazing book, I'm just talking to myself, but if you're reading this, I hope it helps. I want to talk about your mental health journey, and I
Okay.
do want to talk about some statistics because, but whenever I meet with someone, I always kind of want to see what's out there. And I know mental health is such a big thing, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Absolutely.
And mental health is something that we all struggle with. We're all going to go through. We're all going to experience downs, ups, lows, highs. So, according to the National Institute on Minority Health and Health Disparities, they say that only a small portion of mental health professionals are African American. African Americans are also less likely to have health insurance. Also, African Americans are less likely to receive an accurate mental health diagnosis. And for those who are diagnosed with depression, they are less likely to receive treatment than their white counterparts. So, let's talk about your mental health journey. What has it been like? What did you struggle with when it came to mental health?
So just understanding what trauma was,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that trauma just isn't like physical. It's not a physical assault.
Yeah.
It can be mental, like, and my journey just was, getting to the point where everything became cyclical, like a cycle, a
Yeah.
vicious cycle, and just getting kind of like tired of the vicious cycle. I'm tired of beating myself up all of the time,
Mm-hmm.
because of that critical voice. You continually like beat yourself up
Yeah.
about the mistakes. And a part of my mental health journey was forgiving myself, like learning, because in order to forgive anybody else, you have to understand what forgiveness is for yourself.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that was definitely a big part of my mental health journey. Understanding that it is like, kind of not a thing that black men talk about. Like,
Never.
just to check in. Because a lot of times, like, along my mental health journey, you call your homeboy and you guys are just, talking about sports, talking about, current events, but not really checking in. Like, how are you really doing? And because of the things that I went through, I kind of became an advocate for
Mental
not
health.
not just checking in with myself, but checking in with other people,
Absolutely.
like
That's so
engaging with
important.
people, especially black men, keeping an open ear, not just listening to respond, but like just listening, because sometimes people just need that vent.
We
Even
all
though
do.
I definitely believe in the professional help. That's also a part of my mental health journey, is actually believing in
Mental
going to
health.
seek the help. Because I grew up in a Christian background, going to church, every Sunday. Well, going to church 7 days a week.
Really? 7 days a week?
It got to that. Now I'm exaggerating.
What denomination was it?
It
Church of
was
Christ?
non-denominational. That's what. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was very fluent, very open. But my mom had me involved. Growing up in the inner city.
Yeah.
Having
Church is a must.
Yeah, and
'Cause in
I'm an
this
'80s
house,
baby.
We praise the Lord.
Yes, and that's all we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And understanding that yes, you do have to be connected to the Most High. You have to be.
It's a
You
must.
have to pray. You have to stay in the book. You have
Yeah.
to have that because it's our manuscript. Like
Exactly.
it's our daily download of how we carry out. But it wasn't just pray, leave it to God, and just carry
No.
on. No, you have to actually do work for yourself.
Actually,
He blesses mental health professionals to help you
to
in
help
that.
you, yeah.
So it's not just pray and leave it to God. It's pray
Let's do
and be
the work.
actionable.
Yeah, I do believe that faith without works is dead, and I believe in mental health, like going to seek a therapist. I also believe in connecting with God and really reading the Word. That's one thing that I've been doing daily. Like you said, it's your manuscript. Like you can't know how to maneuver in this life without reading the Word. In my opinion, I feel like that
Absolutely.
is your instruction. And now, the more that I read it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, the answer
makes
was
sense.
always here. I want to go back to, you said that you had to forgive yourself. What were you forgiving yourself for?
Past mistakes of relationship, career options, and just the daily, when they say life be life and
Life to be life.
just forgiving yourself for those moments, like genuinely forgiving yourself, forgiving myself for hurting other people, and just staying steadfast and like understanding that their forgiveness process is not mine,
Yeah.
but I still have to forgive myself.
Absolutely.
And then being connected back to God, understanding that He's always going to forgive you, but you have to bring it to Him.
Yeah. You have to repent.
Yeah.
And I always say forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. Because some people are holding on to unforgiveness so tightly, and it's just bleeding. It's a bleeding wound to me. Like you're not letting go, and they feel like not forgiving someone is them hurting that person.
Yeah.
When at the end of the day, that person's sleeping well. They're not worried about you.
Yeah.
They're sleeping perfectly at night, not even thinking about what they did.
Going through the process of, also, coming from a single parent home, being named Harold Martin III, but like not really having a relationship with my dad or even understanding what Harold meant. Just to fast forward, I really kind of understood who he was at his funeral. Like when other people
Really?
were talking about him, it's like, oh, wow.
So you didn't know who you
I
knew
knew
who
my
he
dad.
was,
I knew my
but you
dad.
didn't have a relationship
I
with
didn't
him.
have the a consistent relationship with my dad. And going back to just calling and talking about sports, that's like what me and my dad's thing would be. For the most part, like March Madness would always be like a great time because my dad would call me, like, and I wouldn't really hear from him
Outside of that time.
Yeah, so like, and then going into my mental health journey, not understanding why March was so triggering to me as a going in, like, this is my mental health journey, like going back to understanding what triggers are.
Yeah.
Like, why am I so upset? Why am I being so sensitive? Why am I walking around like an open wound? Like anything is just triggering me. But going back to the process, that's when you talk to your dad the most. Filling out a March Madness bracket became like a seasonal thing for us. And then, we didn't talk for a while, so I wouldn't fill it out. And then we would talk again, I'd fill it out and be really indulged into that March Madness aspect because that's how I connected to my dad.
What is it like having the name, like the name of someone, and you don't really know the definition of who they are? Like, when you see a word, like, gosh, I see the word all the time, but I don't know the definition. How does that feel?
It really for your self-worth process, like it's hard to understand what your worth is, like who you are. And then on top of that, like I used to be, very adamant, like call me Trey. And my mom, God bless her, would also be one. And we talked about it. The book actually helped us talk about it. Like, yeah, I kind of made you ashamed of Harold too. Because it would always be, his name is Harold Martin III, but his name is Trey. Like quick, like, like his name is
Because she didn't want to reference you, I guess, as being,
Harold.
Because of your father.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. So yeah, not understanding who I was, kind of being a caricature of myself because and then not having, I had my grandfather in my life, I had my uncle in my life, but they weren't my dad.
Yeah, you want your dad.
Yeah.
Regardless, everyone, no matter how many men I meet that don't have a relationship with their dad, they act like it doesn't bother them, but you want your dad.
Yeah.
The person that made you, you want to have a relationship
Yeah.
with them. You want to know who they are. You want to see why you act the way that you do. And there's so many men that I know that are the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, and don't even know their dad.
Yeah.
Carrying a legacy for someone that has not led you.
At all.
That's deep.
Yeah. For
That's
sure.
deep, yeah. So when you said, not really having the outlet, because I noticed with men, they like you said, talk about sports or let's go hang out. But I never see men like, bruh, man, I'm not feeling good today, or crying to their homeboy. Where did you have an outlet? Was it just through God? Was it through reading the Word? Where was your outlet for your mental health?
There was none, to be honest, not a
Mm.
safe one.
Wow.
You kind of get into, recreationally, like using marijuana, drinking, get into those really vicious cycles of suppressing everything.
Yeah.
So there was no outlet. It was just me pressing it down until I would, almost have a nervous breakdown and understanding why am I crashing out?
Because it's
Because
coming to the
I'm
surface.
suppressing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to say that I had outlets in the past, no, not really.
Really?
It was basically just kind of, again, suppressing things through recreational marijuana and drinking, and then going and crying to God, like, I'm sorry. Like,
Forgive me.
please going to the
Forgive
altar.
me, Father.
Like, I told my mom one time, I'm like, I probably go to altar call every Sunday. And she was like, if you need to, then do it.
I was that person too.
Every Sunday, like.
They had to be like, I'm sick of this girl, Jody. Every Sunday she is down here.
So the
Or like,
same thing?
Yeah, for the same
are we?
thing. When are
Yeah.
you going to change? When are you going to heal? And I love that you mentioned, like, we often use vices to kind of,
Yeah.
put a Band-Aid on our wounds,
Yeah.
whether it's over drinking, smoking, popping pills, going to the club, because no one wants to deal with that hurt, because it hurts to heal.
Absolutely.
It hurts to heal.
The healing journey
Yeah.
is why I always, even in the book, I talk about start your healing journey today.
Yeah, you
Because
have to.
it's different paths you're going to take.
Yeah.
It's going to be bumps in this road, in this journey. You're going to have
Always.
to restart yourself, reinvent yourself
Yeah.
if needed. Yeah, the journey is just going to be the journey. And we have to understand, like I was saying in the beginning, like trauma isn't just getting hit
Yeah.
or physical. It's being embarrassed.
Yeah.
Again, not understanding why am I triggered by this person beeping at me at the light, because there was an embarrassing moment and I felt like I didn't stand up for myself, taking things like small things like that really personal.
And analyzing them. You know what?
Why
Sometimes
am I
you
like
don't.
this?
Yeah, you don't analyze it. No one ever wants to be still. And this season that I'm in my life, I'm like, let me be still and let me hear God. Because God's
Absolutely.
trying to speak to me, and I can't. I'm always so busy moving, doing so many things, or around a lot of people. I'm like, this season, I just want to be isolated. I want to be isolated.
That's good you say that, because we were just talking in the car. I'm just going over talking points of like what's important to me, and that be still part.
Yeah.
Not calling people and fleshing things out, like really just going to yourself.
Yeah.
Going to yourself and God and just waiting. But you have to, along that line, in between that, you have to be actionable. You still have to do the work for yourself and the
Because
healing
faith
process.
without works is dead.
Right. So, but you definitely have to, you don't have to go out tonight.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you don't have to do those things that you did before to distract yourself from yourself.
You
Really-
don't have to drink a bottle of Jack.
Yeah, one of my, best friends said you really know who you are when you sit in those four walls.
Yeah.
And I really had to do that a lot of times. And sometimes it was very humbling, but the type of humbling that you're afraid of, because it really shows you who
you are. Yeah. And sometimes a lot of people don't want to embrace that. Like people that I see that jump from relationship to relationship or always have to have a crowd around them. It's like you're running from something.
Yeah,
You're
for
running
sure.
from something. I was listening to All the Smoke. That's another podcast.
I love them.
I know. And I saw,
I love
so it's
them.
crazy. It's like your phone, they say your phone listens to you. So I was scrolling on Instagram and a clip of Deion Sanders comes up and he was talking about mental health. And he was saying that he wanted to kill himself. And he was saying that he's like, because I was him, I am him. No one checked for me to know, like, hey, he looks like he's depressed or he's going through something. He's like,
Yeah.
I tried to kill myself, but it wasn't until someone else intervened, like, listen, you're going to take a break from sports and you're going to get some help.
Yeah.
You got
And
to get the help. Did you go to a therapist, or was there someone in your life that kind of stepped in that same manner?
my fiance, who's a contributor to the book as
Hey,
well, yeah,
fiance.
introduced me to therapy through her own work.
Mm,
And this was like 15 years ago, probably was
wow.
my first time. But the thing about it was I wasn't being honest in therapy. Like I was going to therapy looking for like, why do I blame all these people? And just
Yeah.
going through the blame game and not really processing how I contributed to
To that
myself.
situation.
Yeah, and definitely dealing with suicidal ideation. I
Yeah.
dealt with that in a very young age. Again, no self worth because my name is my name, but what does it mean?
Yeah. Do you think a lot of the mental health struggles came from like not being around your dad or not having someone
Some of
guide you
it,
up?
yeah, some of that definitely played a part in the initial process, but some of that was again my own mistakes,
Yeah.
like because I'm repeating these cycles and not understanding why am I being triggered and all of these other
Yeah. So you
things.
finally took accountability.
Self
Yeah.
accountability,
Yeah.
yes, for sure.
That's a lot of us don't want, and I'm guilty too, because sometimes I'm like, it was not me. I was not in the wrong. Well,
Yeah,
they did this or they did that. But then,
always.
when you start to really learn God and know God and listen to God, God starts revealing some stuff to you. I'm like, when you open, sometimes I just like my grandma used to always have the Bible and she would hit it on the back, hit it on the front, and just open it. So sometimes now when I open it, it'll be a verse. I'm like, I feel attacked, God. Okay, like because what I was thinking was exactly what He wanted me to
Yeah.
read. Even when I used to drink, there was a verse that I read. I want to say it was in Hebrews and it was talking about someone being a drinking champion, how you wake up to drink and you live to drink. And when I read that, I was like, I felt attacked.
Are you talking to
Are you
me?
talking to me? And God was talking to
Yeah,
me.
absolutely.
That's why it's important to read your word because a lot of times
Yeah,
the answer is right there.
yeah,
It's right there.
always there.
Yeah. What advice would you give to other listeners that are going to be watching this? Like, there's a lot of men, even some of my brother in law's friends, they're in the military. They're like, Jody, I was listening to your podcast on the way to work. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
So there are men that listen to this, and it is a safe space,
for
not
sure.
only for you, but I want it to be a safe space for the men that are listening. What advice would you give to a man that's listening to this right now that's struggling with mental health?
And sidebar, I was in the Navy. Hoorah.
Hoorah!
Yeah,
Thank you for your service,
yeah.
and thank
Thank
you
you.
for all of your service if you're listening and you were in
Yeah,
the military.
for sure. Um, the advice that I would give you is again tap into the Most High God.
Absolutely.
Uh, get into the Bible, but like don't force yourself. Let it be a process, but
Mm-hmm.
like start your process. And be still. And if need be, get some professional help though. Like
Absolutely.
really take the time. Like I call it dating therapist. Like it's like to
See which one.
see which one really matches you. If you're African American, I would suggest that you get someone who is of the same African American descent, or just someone of color that
Yeah.
understands kind of the plight that we go through. Um, and
Agree.
again, with those three things, you start the process yourself. Take accountability. Stop. Like if you're tired, like the advice I give you right now, if you're listening and you're tired of going through the cycle, then understand what the cycle is and do that through professional help.
Absolutely.
Unpack everything because you can move on from relationship to you can move to the next city, but you are who you are as soon as you
Absolutely.
get there.
Yeah. And I love that you were honest about not being honest in therapy.
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
Like
Why
and
weren't you honest? Let's talk about that because sometimes
be
it's like I don't know why. Because I've done that too. Like, no, I'm gonna leave that part out because I know it wasn't me. I know it was why is that?
embarrassment too,
Yeah.
not trusting. I not having a dad and going through those kind of like trust issues. Didn't trust people.
Yeah.
Being embarrassed by who I thought were friends. So just kind of holding on to that. So I'm like, I'm just gonna unpack what bothers me about other people, not me.
Myself. Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
me, because if I don't want this person to find out who I am, because usually when that happens, they leave me. Abandonment issues.
Mm.
Like I didn't,
It's deep.
or I didn't want them to judge me.
Yeah.
Like,
It's deep. It's deep. I would say for anyone listening to this, like, go to God. Go to God.
Yeah,
God is the,
that's my first
yeah,
option.
the Alpha and the Omega. You can't, like, God literally cares so
He
much.
loves you. Like,
Loves you. Yeah.
and another point, like, because I know even like you said, we used to go to the altar every Sunday, and you're wondering like, why God are you reminding me of this? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
on the healing journey, and this is a check-in point. Because accountability is the first thing. Are you over this? Let me see. How
Let
does
me
it make you?
test you
Let
and
me see. How
see.
does it make you feel? And I'm doing this because I love you, because I want you to get over it, and I
Yeah.
want you to tap in more to me to get through this process and tap into yourself. Believe in yourself
Believe in yourself.
because
Yeah.
I am in you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, for sure.
God is the Alpha and the Omega. Let me
Yeah,
tell you, God will guide you through any and everything that you're going through. You just got to hold his hand. You just got to hold his hand. And Deion Sanders said on that same podcast, All the Smoke was, he was like, God was calling me to collect, but I didn't want to have to pay for the things that he
I
wanted me to
didn't.
let go.
I didn't.
Yeah, you don't want to
Because I
have to let
wasn't
go.
ready to face myself. Like, that's facing
Yeah,
yourself. Like,
yeah,
really looking yourself in the mirror. Like, I am these things, and I do need to get over it.
yeah. And do you feel like it is a daily journey? How do
Oh,
you,
it's every day.
it's every day?
It's like if you don't take a shower daily, you're
You're
going
going to
to
smell.
be musty. If you don't motivate yourself, your attitude will be musty.
Yeah.
So every day, these affirmations, 75 of them, are for me. But if you read them and it resonates with you, I hope it helps.
Yeah.
But I have to do this every single
Every
day.
single
You have
day.
to be a warrior. You're God's warrior anyways. Every day he puts you on the battlefield, and the first thing you need to do is check in with yourself. Put on the
Absolutely.
armor of God, of
Put
course.
on the armor of God, yes.
Yeah.
And we would need it in this life. You need to have the hat, shoes, gloves, breastplate, everything
Yeah,
to
like a
survive.
Roman warrior.
Yeah, you really
Yeah.
do, because it is war. It is war out
And
here.
it's about you checking in with yourself first to be what you need to be. If whatever role you play in other people's lives, you can't be that until you check in with
With
yourself.
yourself, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So let's talk about your book.
Yeah,
I'm just talking to myself, but if you are reading this, I hope it
I
helps.
do.
So what prompted you to write this? Was because it seems as if just based on the title, when I heard that, I was like, okay, he wrote this for himself. So this is what helped you, is the affirmations.
So again, going back to my fiance, who is also
Yeah.
a contributor to the book, um, asked me one time, like, what motivates you? And I listened to Eric Thomas and all the
Mm-hmm.
Wallow. I love Wallow from $1 Million Worth of Game.
Yeah.
I love him as well. But like, what motivated me was me. And so in that process, being still, praying, and then meditating, and then what came to me are these words, and then I would share them on social media. So then my friends, shout out to my boy CJ, would call me and be like, "Man, this quote actually helped.
Wow.
You should write a book."
Hmm.
Oh, okay. I feel you. Let me just carry on with my life though, because I don't know anything about writing a
Yeah.
book. Going back to my fiance, she was the first person to really, and it goes back, as a kid, people telling me you should write a book,
Mm.
because I love writing.
So it's always been there.
It's always been
It's
there.
always been there.
So just to get to the point of like how I got there, sharing them, getting other people's feedback, and then just going through the process of figuring out how to get this thing printed.
And listen, I want to read this because self reflection number 5, I think this is very important. It says, you have enough room in your heart to welcome the love you deserve. It starts with loving you. It's okay to heal from the pain. It's okay to forgive yourself. It's really going to be all right as long as you keep trying.
Every single day,
Every single day.
man.
This isn't like, it's
When I
just
hear
so
them, it blows my mind sometimes. Like, you wrote that? That's great.
Excuse me?
That's mine.
It starts
Great.
with loving you.
Oh my gosh, man.
I feel like when you really love yourself, it's
Yeah.
just like an overflow of infinity that you're able to pour into
Yeah.
everyone else.
You have to be a light.
You have to be a
You
light.
have to be a light. You have to be a light to yourself to get yourself through those dark corners, those
Absolutely.
dark shadows, and then just spread it. Like I believe it's quote 33. It's be crazy enough to believe that
Yeah.
you've inspired someone, and then
You better
continue that
know your
trend.
book.
Woo.
Be crazy enough to believe you've inspired someone and then continue that trend
And then 35 is sometimes you have to wake up to following
to
your
follow
dream.
your dreams, to follow.
Actionable, being
Yeah.
actionable.
I like, and that's one thing that we're really big on here at the Heart Helpers because, we don't want to always have people on that are influencers and trying to
Yeah,
get you to buy a shirt, get you to buy liquor, or get you to buy their makeup brand. We want people like you that are inspiration
yeah.
because someone's going to listen to this podcast and be like, you know what? I want to write a book, or you know what?
Please
I
do.
want to heal. I
Yes,
want to heal. Or you know what? Let me check in on my brother, my cousin, my dad. Let me check in because this is real.
it
And
is.
it's definitely warfare. It's definitely warfare.
Absolutely.
This is a beautiful, beautiful book. And I do feel like affirmations, we spend so much time speaking life into other people, right? I know I'm guilty of that. Every day
Yes.
checking in, hey, well, how was work? How's it going? Sending people Bible quotes, prayers. And I'm like, gosh, you know what? This season I'm pouring into me. And this book gives me that. You were like, you know what? I want to pour into
Find out what
me.
happens when you actually pour
Yeah,
into
pour into
yourself.
yourself.
Like start following that same advice that you're giving everyone else. Like this is great things that you're telling people. Like
Yeah.
and they're giving you feedback like, "Man, you're good at this,
You're
man."
good at this.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful book. And I was like, let me see what other people are saying about this book. So, some reviews that I read, the first one is from Nicholas Briney, and it says,
Shout out to Nick.
Hey, Nick. Hey, Nick. It says, I challenge you to read 5 pages of this book a day. Daily reminders on how important outlook is. Your attitude determines 90% of your day. The author does a great job laying out the foundation for a successful mindset. Love this book and would highly recommend. 5 stars. So, what I wanted to ask this, I wanted to speak on that because what does a successful mindset look like to you?
Successful mindset is accepting you,
Yeah.
flaws and all. Understanding what your purpose is and fulfilling that purpose
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah. I always give kudos to anyone that is able to manifest their dreams because I'm sure, were you scared when you wrote this book
I
to be that vulnerable?
so vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's a great point that you made. Also the critical voice was telling me like, people are gonna be like, who this guy think he is? I really know him. I know who Trey is, or I know
Mm,
Harold. Like I know him. Like this
mm.
book ain't. So kind of having that like sabotage moment, like don't do
Don't
it,
do it.
because they gonna really. But no, like servitude like is important to me.
Yeah.
Like first of all, of course, being there for myself, but then again, being crazy enough to think like I can inspire other people.
And that's all it's about. And I think whatever your creative outlet is, our mission is to be fisher of men. Whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a doctor. And I feel like with the words that you wrote in this book, you're a fisher of men.
Yeah,
And they're going to heal themselves and they're going to become. And when you become a blessing to so many other people around you.
yeah, because there's life rotates 360, and
Yeah.
I feel like I heard Styles P from the Lock say this, like he was rotating in a 180-degree negative way, so now it's the 180-degree positive, like you know
Changing.
changing it, like, and then like letting everybody else consume this ecosystem so I can be the change for other people to be the change, and before we know it, we
We're all
all
changed.
on this healing journey together
Absolutely.
though. Like, like you said, doing the check-ins. How you doing, bruh? Like, no,
Yeah.
no, no. Not about, what Anthony Edwards did last night. What's good with
Really,
you?
how are you? That's why I always like to ask people, not like how your day is going. I always say, how is your heart? Because when
Mm,
you say, how's your day, they're like, oh, it was good. But then when you say, how's your heart? Like, it's like, you know what, Jody, I'm feeling kind of messed up
it's
right
heavy
now.
right
Or,
now.
yeah, it's heavy.
It's heavy.
And that's all you need to say. And let's pray. You know what I'm saying? Not even if you get into the details of it, let's just pray.
Yeah.
And I love that you said, like when you're writing the book, being vulnerable, like people are like, oh, no, I know Harold. I feel like sometimes people know who you used to be and they don't know who you're becoming. And I hate when people judge someone for who they used to be or they gossip
Absolutely.
about who someone used to be. Well, did you pray for who she should become or who he should become?
How did
I
you contribute
How
into
did
their
you
progression? Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like this book contributes to people becoming
Yeah.
to becoming.
But more importantly, me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but
Yeah,
when you wrote it though,
yeah.
you helping
Oh
yourself
man,
helped other people.
yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely. So when you were writing this book, did you like I know when I go to meetings or when I'm doing anything creative, I always try to pray beforehand like God, let me say what you want me to say.
Hmm.
How was your connection and relationship with God when you were writing this book?
Uh, just like when that critical voice was becoming loud, being quiet and praying and listening, like for that, do it.
Yeah.
But not so much like hearing the voice, but understanding when I get up and I open up my laptop and I go into Adobe InDesign and get all of this together, like just keep formatting it and just believe that this is for a good purpose
Purpose, yeah.
because it's already been given to you.
You
Like
just got to put it out.
put it
And
out
here
there.
it is.
Yeah.
So, how did you and your fiance collaborate? I know we were speaking a little bit off of camera.
Yeah.
I think she was helping you with the
Yeah,
marketing.
she's a media maven. Her
Okay.
name is Tiffany Wade.
Hey, Tiffany.
Yeah.
She's here, y'all. So,
Yeah. She's in the background. So she is a contributor. You can see her in the credits
yes.
actually. Um, and what was it? What the things that were not easy for me. I'm an introvert
Mm-hmm.
naturally, so it's kind of hard for me to reach out to people, and that's what
Is
she
she an
does.
extrovert?
Uh, I think she's a mix of both.
A mix of both.
Like,
Okay.
yeah. She has a consulting service, so I was her first client. Yeah,
Awesome.
and little advice like if people want to be creative couples, you have to wear your hat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the author, she's the consultant manager. So it's not babe, it's not hey
This is
you
business.
left some dishes in the sink and I'm coming into this meeting with an attitude. No, we got to get this book cover aligned, which that's her contributing part and the marketing part. Like we have to get this done and put on that hat and know the difference. Like
Between the
this
two.
is business. Let's leave that.
How did you guys balance that?
It wasn't easy. You just do it. You pray through it and you get through it. Like you just do it. Like, not to make it sound simple, but you just really
Tunnel vision.
you and trust in each
Well,
other.
I mean, working with someone that you love, I mean, who else can you trust? Because they know your heart, they know your vision. Does Tiffany work with other people? If someone listening would want to partner with her,
So she is available
okay.
for
I'm like,
other
I'm gonna have
people.
to
I'm
reach out to
gonna
Tiffany.
release her to other
Oh, okay, so she's
people.
available to work with others.
It's
Okay.
cool, guys. I want her to have other clients. Full circle, 365, 360. Excuse me. Full circle,
Okay.
360. And yeah, we'll get information to how to contact her and all of that.
Absolutely, and also will put it in the podcast description.
Exactly.
And where can people get your book?
You can get it at Amazon.com. Just type in Harold Martin III and it will come up, or type in I'm just talking to myself.
I'm just talking to myself, but if you're reading this, I hope it helps. I'll also put the book link in the podcast description. There's so many great jewels in this book. I want to read number
Okay.
32. It says, be aware of the positive influence you have and use that as a way to empower people. And I feel like it's so, like all the content,
Empower.
empower people. What does
Because
that
they
mean to
need it.
you?
Lifting someone up, like being that, again, I believe in like an ecosystem. Like you
Yeah.
have to exist amongst other good energy. And a part of that is empowerment. Like you are great. Like, I mean, you were made in his image, so you
You
are
are great.
great.
You were born great. You can't forget
You're
it.
here for a reason. Just
Absolutely.
live it out.
And with the content that we see nowadays, I'm so mindful of like what my son watches. But then I'm like, I gotta be mindful of what I watch
What I'm
too.
ingesting as well.
And this stuff like this, books like this, substance like this is more of what I want to see.
Yeah.
And I feel like if more authors like yourself or creatives like your fiance, if we focus on creating goodness like this, you know how many people we could change and how many
That's
people
what
we
I'm
could
saying.
save?
Like
Yeah.
empower people and imagine empowering someone. Imagine if Steve Jobs wasn't empowered, like
We wouldn't have what we have.
we
And
wouldn't
I
have the
don't think
technology.
any idea that we have, I don't think it's placed in your heart by coincidence.
Mm.
Like God didn't plop it in your heart like, "Oh, you know what? Be an author." That's there for a reason. And I give anyone kudos that has the courage to publish a book, that has the courage to become what's in their heart, because it's
Yeah.
not easy. Being
Mm.
vulnerable is so scary.
I was again petrified, like,
And look at you.
just talked myself out of it so many times, like, and not even talking myself out, like, understand that complacency is also a trauma response, like understanding
Mm.
that you're putting this off out of fear, and we're not made to fear anything
Except for God. That's
except
it.
for God.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, what are you working on? What can we expect to see? Are you going to be publishing more books? What can our
So
listeners expect?
yeah, I thought about this while coming to the studio. Like, I should make this a series. Like, I'm not done. I'm not done. Like, I was already thinking, like, next title. Probably I'm still just talking to
I'm still talking to
I'm
myself,
still,
part two.
yeah.
But I hope this helps you.
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, more books to come.
More books to come.
All right. So, this is all the gems that are in here. Like,
For sure.
even in this little amount of time, just reading what you've poured your heart into has been very inspiring and filling to me, and I will be sure to get my copy. I wish I had it so you could sign it for me, but next time. Outside of writing more books, what else are you working on? What could our listeners expect to see?
So working on this pilot for a show called Average Jermaine.
Okay, what's going on?
It focuses on, what is considered the average black man, but it's everyday life. Because again, we get to see the affluent, black lifestyle and Blackish, or the powers, and we get to see all of the drugs and the guns and the violence, but we don't see the guy that may just work at a call center, got
Maybe
a group
a
of
car
friends,
salesman. Okay.
just, whatever type of job. And I'm not calling that average,
Yeah.
but like, just in the sense of, the sense of an average Joe, an average Jermaine, because it's catered to black men being able to see them, someone they actually identify.
That's so important.
A guy that, might take rec basketball a little too serious, like he's getting an NBA contract, like we all know that
real.
guy.
I know a few of those
I'm
guys.
that guy.
Yeah, no, I know a few of those guys. So it's important. So you are working on that.
I'm working on it.
now.
Oh, well, it's written, just working on shooting the pilot now.
Okay.
Yep.
I honestly, I look forward to seeing that, because sometimes we don't see a lot of content that we can relate to.
Yeah.
Especially men of color. There's not
Exactly.
There's the snowfalls, there are the powers, like you said, but there has to be more for us other than drugs, guns, murders, or seeing someone that's abnormally rich. Like,
Yeah.
you want to see yourself.
Exactly.
So I'm looking forward to the average
Appreciate it.
Jermaine.
Appreciate it.
If you guys need an actress extraordinaire,
Oh,
let me know.
We will definitely hit you up.
Yeah, so we'll have to have you back onto the Heart Helper podcast.
For sure.
So as we close out, I always like to ask my guests. So I'm going to say 5 statements.
Okay.
I'm going to start them and you're going to finish
Okay.
them. Okay. So the first one is, I am.
Great.
I can.
Be anything that I put my mind to.
Man. I will.
Always have faith in God.
Amen. Love is.
You.
And God is.
Omnipotent.
That was great. That was great. For one, the takeaway from me, love is you. Love is you. So as you guys are listening to this, remember, take that from Mr. Trey Martin. Love is you. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. And please make sure to get his latest book. I'm just talking to myself, but if you're reading this, I hope it helps. You guys heard the amazing reflections that I read off on today's episode, and it really is heartwarming. It really is heartwarming. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do. And thank you for your vulnerability. I hope that when you guys are listening to it, especially men and men of color, I hope that it helps. I hope this is a safe space for you. Check in with your brother, check in with your dad, check in with your uncle, and check in with yourself.
Yes.
Please check in with yourself.
Always.
And make sure y'all check in with Mr. Harold Martin III and get his book. Please support his efforts, support his dreams, and we look forward to seeing more from you.
Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Until next time, this was the Heart Helper Podcast.